travel,
protection,
friendship,
escape,
independence,
distracted driving means danger,
recklessness,
irresponsible,
chaos, police,
devastation,
injury,
tears, death. Safe driving means staying alert and staying alive.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org. A message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, Noise, and the Ad Council.
Well, in sports talk radio, they tell you to play the hits. To me, I will make the SoCon a hit. I will, be the old-time DJ that got to program his own music. And maybe even in the case of Alan Freed, the old payola scandals and all that, to get your records played. And so that was kind of an interesting thing. Ever go to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? I know I'm going off tangent here. Yeah, I do that sometimes. I'm Marky Billson. But the king of the Moondoggers, the inventor of the phrase rock and roll, a great DJ, Alan Freed, who got fired because of payola back in the day. Before you had a program director program all the music on a radio station. I mean, even music on a radio station is becoming blasé. It's all about iPads and, downloading and so on. But anyway, the point that we're trying to make right here is that there was a great line that one of the artists who said, a year ago I was sleeping in my car. I brought the 45 that I paid my last dollar to have made. I gave it to Alan Freed. He put it on the air. A year later now, I am a star. I am rich. I have, and all this. I can't give Alan Freed a gift? And it was a great, you can see this in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. They've got up in Cleveland, they've got a real film and display there. And I'm giving them free advertising. But it really did make you think, and have a different perspective on the old payola scandals in radio. Forgive me. I love radio. I hope you can sense that. I love the history as well as the contemporary, where it's going. And, of course, where it's going. It's Tri-City Sports Now. And the influence that I want to have. I want to really get this idea. We're 412 fans down in Charleston at the Citadel ETSU game. That's all, 412 fans. I know I'm the guy that says college basketball regular season is meaningless. You know what? It becomes meaningful. The SoCon can never be a two-bid league. These are great universities. These are great cities. These are great schools. And, as I mentioned with Digger Bocom again, when it was a one-bid league, when he was an assistant at Davidson or Bob McKillop. And, Davidson lost. I remember it occurring. Davidson losing in the, talking about on this station, as a matter of fact, ESPN Radio, which at the time we were the history of WEMB. I know we are now affiliated with NBC Sports Radio, and thank goodness. I think it's a better league a better network these days, as well as I think Fox than ESPN. I will say that. However, back when ESPN was 20 years ago, not now, the sports radio network to listen to. And WEMB, standing for Wisely Employing Marky Billson, was the very first station in Tennessee to be an ESPN radio affiliate. I don't know if you knew that or not. They really helped pioneer sports talk radio in this market, this radio station did. We continue to do that. And what am I trying to do now? Get more attention to the SoCon. Maybe I won't have the impact in Charleston, but getting more Johnson Cityans to think ETSU as the home team, as the big league team. Heck, ETSU still getting a vote in the top 25 poll. Virginia, number 1, once again in the AP. Duke, number 6. UNC, number 10. Cincinnati, number 11. That kind of hurts because they lost to Houston. And if the Bucks had beaten UNCG on Monday, then the Bucks would have the longest winning streak in college basketball. Tennessee, number 19. Middle Tennessee State, number 24. And ETSU getting one lonely vote for the third straight week in the AP poll. First time they've received votes since the 2004 team, and they, like this team is attempting to do, made the NCAAs in back-to-back years for ETSU. Anyway, I did want to talk a little bit. Finishing out, I've got a little bit of Vols news here. I'm thinking of, you say play the hits. Do we want to, in the Tri-Cities, talk about Vols football, or do we want to talk about the Daytona 500? And I've only got, ideally, you'd talk both, right? I've got 7 minutes left in the show, so I got to think kind of one or the other here. I'm going to go NASCAR. By the way, Jerry Bonkowski joins me tomorrow. He couldn't make it today. Jerry's health has been, well, it's not on death's doorstep or anything, but he's had to take care of it, and he had a doctor's appointment that conflicted with a guest spot on today's show, so we'll have him on tomorrow. He's our motorsports contact up there in Chicago, writing for NBCSports.com. Anyway, but one of the storylines, certainly, in addition to Dylan pushing Amarola out of the way, and did that make the race, or was this race with all the crashes a sloppy race? I guess it depends on what you prefer. I mean, in basketball, some prefer the three-point shot, others prefer stuffing in the hole and slam dunks. You've got the two different styles in all this. How do you think? It's always been said, what is the appeal of NASCAR? It's the crashes! I can't deny that. Still, though, it might be one of the shortcomings of the sport, just as I think fouling. I'm talking to Duger Bocom, can hack ETSU. Yeah, beat us on the line. A way to defeat a more athletic team. Breaking the rules. It's a flaw of basketball. Flaw of racing, of NASCAR. Thought about this, how a moment, and I thought that was a moment, Dylan pushing the opponent out of the way to win a race in a 3-car. On the 20th anniversary of when Dale Earnhardt ended his long losing streak at Daytona. That was a big thing. I remember when that happened. That completed Earnhardt. If he doesn't win that race, my goodness. The wreck in Daytona 3 years later becomes even more tragic. Can you imagine? It's like, I couldn't win the Daytona 500, but not only that, but it killed him. That would be absolutely horrible. But it completed his career. That was the Achilles heel for how long? I remember ads that Dale Earnhardt used to do, and he'd talk about winning in Daytona, because he never won the Daytona 500 until 1998, but there were other races and competitions that he had won on the track. And he would talk, and it was almost like in defiance of the jinx that he had until 1998. And it was a big thing. I think the people that had the anybody but Earnhardt bumper stickers on their cars back in those days kind of gave Earnhardt the respect finally when he won in 98. And it was his first victory, by the way, in more than a year. And the signs that Earnhardt was slowing down, maybe he shouldn't be on the track anymore, they had already come out. Remember, he fell asleep in his car right before a race in 96. Their signs were there. And but anyway, one more moment in the sun for Earnhardt in 98. And this was the 20th anniversary. And so, the grandson of Richard Childress winning the race, pushing Eric Amendola out of the way. How appropriate. But a moment in sport as good probably as it got in NASCAR, but does that compete with, let's say, a home run winning a baseball game? That sort of moment. Daytona 500, Super Bowl, and NASCAR, right? All right. But does Austin Dillon pushing his way to a victory, is that a moment as satisfying, as precious as, say, Bill Mazeroski winning the World Series in 1960 with a home run, more contemporary Joe Carter, or say Aaron Boone, now the Yankees manager 15 years ago, winning the pennant for the Yankees with a game-ending home run in extra innings of the 7th game off of Tim Wakefield. And does that how does it compete with a football moment? Generally speaking, football games are won, if they're won in the last second, on a field goal, which is fine in itself, but it's not quite as satisfying as, let's say, the Immaculate Reception to win a game or something of that nature, okay? But I said the one thing that maybe limits a NASCAR moment, whatever it is, photo finish, aggressive win, holding off an up-and-comer. Speaking of Dale Earnhardt and late victories, I always thought Derek Cope's victory in the 1990 Daytona 500 when he was right there, slow and steady, if you will, winning the race, kind of like Bubba Wallace. But then Earnhardt loses his tire. That's when the Daytona jinx really began for Earnhardt. That's when they really started talking about it. And then Cope, who only won 2 races in his career, slides past. Earnhardt wins the 1990 Daytona 500. That to me was probably, that was a moment. That was a great moment. But, you know, when a ball player wins the World Series with a pennant with a home run, fans rush out onto the field. You can't do that at a track. When, dare I say, the Immaculate Reception happened, fans, they stormed out onto the field. It was a moment. It belonged to everyone. There was human interaction. When Lorenzo Charles dunked home the national championship for NC State in that improbable victory, which I actually, as a 12-year-old boy, thought the Wolfpack was going to win that game. But then again, you know. But anyway, pat myself on the back for that. But anyway, the moment, Jim Valvano running around, everybody running onto the court, it was people. Maybe, just maybe, that might prevent a NASCAR moment, what do you think, from being ultimately that special? Your thoughts? Tell me tomorrow.